Welcome back to TripleKO, the all fighting game podcast. I am joined this week by one Maximilian Dood. One Justin Wong is not unfortunately able to join us today because Thailand is Thailand and it is very far away in the future, but not as far in Japan, which actually makes it easier to record because he would be getting up now.
Yeah, he's in ethereal form. He's right there.
Exactly, but he's sleeping. He's either sleeping or playing the City of the Wolves beta right now, so he's quite busy. But of course, we have the most manliest of family men, Mr. GuileWinQuote, joining us once again. Lots of news going on this week. The EVO Awards, betas, lots of characters. Why don't we start off with the EVO Awards? Max, do you know anything about these? I know you were out of town. You weren't able to, unfortunately, attend there. But what did you hear through the grapevine about this event that you were not at?
Definitely not at. Definitely was not there. It was good. I know on the viewing end, it was really long. Even though when we were at the event, we could only pay so much attention because there was so much stuff going on. But it seemed good. It seemed like relatively wholesome. I was having a fun time watching it, and it more, I think, accompanies the fact that when you're in the fighting game community, you actually have to be a good speaker, be relatively talented. You have to be able to do this stuff because we're niche, so we have to try really hard. And yeah, a lot of the way the stage presentation was, how real it felt was good. I think it was also Hanzo Gonzo's show to direct, and I thought he did a really good job with the overall tone and feel of it. So I hope it comes back next year and it is in similar tone and feel. Again, some great words from Majin Obama. Rob TV was hilarious. There's a lot of stuff. Justin is getting better and better at being a commentator just in general, just because he's got so much training now. He's destroying that matchup. I had a really good time. And I had a really good time because I only had one responsibility as well. I got to just have several critical conversations with a ton of people I've been waiting to have forever. I had old heads of the Third Strike community come up, and we just got to talk about 3S and shit, and how the game is just still going to prop it up. The same thing with the Marvel 2 community, all these old heads that I've just known forever, and I finally get to meet them in person. So anyway, yeah, I had a really good time.
Did you watch the show, Leighton?
Yes, I did, and I was a bit wary beforehand, because usually these kind of award shows aren't really my thing. And I didn't really know what to expect, but I was impressed with how grand everything seemed, and I was very I felt oh yeah, this is my community. I want so and so to win. I feel proud of this person, and it was a lot cooler than I expected, and I was really impressed by the amount of game reveals and stuff there as well. Yeah. I didn't expect any of that. So I went in with super low expectations, and with Max, I want it to happen again, and I want it to get better because I was really impressed.
Because it was grand, but also not too grand. It felt like an intimate night with a bunch of people that kind of knew each other, not this huge amorphous event where it's not too what do I want to say, glitzy commercial.
Sure.
It felt like a nice evening with awards thrown in. But the awards were still important though. That was the key thing.
Some of them are some of them were a little
not best meme.
Who the hell
maybe
gets this award for best button? Who walks home with this award? There's some of them in there that are obviously memes, and literal memes. And I do hope that some of those categories are consolidated a little bit. There were some situations where there was award categories and it felt like the next category that was up was the exact same people for the exact same thing nominated multiple times in the exact same category. I'm yeah. This is a little weird. So I think things like that need to be ironed out just a little bit. But this pretty much was a conceptual award show. What if we turn the Canon Awards, right, which has been going on for 10 years, pretty much 10 plus years. What if we turn that into something that specifically celebrates the players themselves? the direct people in the community. And I think they did a really good job at that.
Yeah, like for the first year, like I'd expect something to be like really rough, but it wasn't. Except for the points that you just raised. I was like, yeah, like that's something that can obviously be smoothed out and rethought a little bit, but the core majority of the show, and like Guile said, like the actual reveals, like it wasn't anything earth shattering, but it wasn't nothing either. Like there were several character reveals. The Garo exhibition, the 3-man tournament, I believe, the 3-man bracket.
Yeah, the comical bracket.
which was fun, and it's just a way to get a bunch of eyes that were like watching the awards to put a game in front of it. It was kind of a good idea, but at the same time it did slow the event was already really long, but it was still, pleasant. It wasn't like being assaulted by commercials and just too many trailers. Like it struck a good balance.
That side I really didn't get to see very much of since I was there. I didn't know how much of an advertisement blitz it was, but that just comes with the nature of things.
I think it was only the 9-minute break that I think it was after the Garo. It was either after or before Garo, where it was like 9 minutes of like ads, but like I didn't see any before then. I tuned in like kind of halfway into the show, but yeah, I'd love to see it continue as well. Cause like at first I don't know when you guys, what did you first think of when you heard this idea in general, Leighton?
Whenever it got announced, I think it was announced at EVO 2024. I was thinking like, okay, yeah, there's going to be like a big space. It's going to be in person. It's going to be glitzy. And then as we got closer and we didn't hear anything about it, I was like, is this like an online thing? Is this like a real? I didn't know I didn't know if it was real or not until like a week before. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to happen. And it's in LA and people are going to it. So, yeah, like I said, I had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And like what Max said, there could be a lot of different awards. I feel like, best dressed, I feel like that's kind of like a buddy award sort of thing, But yeah, I would, for the future, I would just like, I know it's like a popularity thing. I don't know how possible it is, but it'd be cool if we got focus on non-North American, maybe non-Capcom stuff a little more.
Yeah,
for
it seems
awards.
Very heavily Capcom focused, yes.
And we're, West Coast America, I know that's going to happen, that's like primo Capcom.
Like just to have FDX there, was kind of like the odd duck in comparison to like all of the other like Capcom content creators or focused Capcom content creators and stuff. Which was kind of why I was like rooting for him, because he was sort of unique in this space of being like nominated, because eventually it is similar to the Streamer Awards. And it is boiling down to a popularity contest. Like whoever has the most votes for this thing, just based on how much you campaign, is how you will win, So that's a lot different than like what the Canon Awards have been before. And I don't know how to necessarily fix that, but I still think it's a good thing, right? There's like, that's like the entire political side of like, why the hell was GuileWinQuote, not up there for something? The videos are amazing. What the fuck is going on? Like, come on, bro. Like that kind of stuff, like even like Theory Fighter and some of the guys that have been doing like the long form content and stuff like that for a very long time. It's like, oh man, but would they have the campaign ability for it? Like that literally is political, bro. Like it's
yeah,
funny.
Like if I were to have been nominated, I was like, I'm not gonna wait against Sajam. Like, come on, like don't put me up against Sajam, So.
Yeah, and it's in a similar way. I've been talking to the EVO guys about this for a long time. I think the first time I heard about the award show was like 2.5 years ago, and it was right after like the Sony thing. And me and Rick have a lot of conversations about EVO stuff, just because it's like I've been in tune with the EVO crew for a very long time, since like 2012. So yeah, like this was the idea of their big expansion. That's when the talks were going around about like an EVO, Europe or some way, where it's like, yeah, EVO France is now happening this year. It's like, whoa, okay, so this sort of fits in line with their big brand expansion, which is great. And now we're seeing all that stuff happening, like big scale, large scale size tournaments, like decent viewership. EVO Japan's getting bigger and bigger every single year. This is awesome, dude, because it feels like, oh, we don't have to wait till the Super Bowl, every single year. There's now like there's now some playoffs. There's now this. There's now that. There's like big championship matches that sort of happen in between these spaces. So, I dig it. It's just more of an expansion of the fighting game scene in that space. Let's just hope that Sony finds this all valuable in some way, and let's just hope that this is resulting in something that is an overall net positive, because in this industry that can be kind of challenging.
Because your point about the streamer awards is like very accurate, because it's like, if Guile got nominated, or God forbid me, people would be like, who? Right? Like,
okay.
Like, as good as the content can be, it's like there's these guys that, and like, this is new. This is the first, award show.
Right.
It'd be rough to like just kind of pick,
and
a much smaller fish over like, Justin's been killing it on his channel, and Sajam obviously, but like, maybe if we work really hard, Leighton, maybe you and I can one day be on stage. But
you can champion and campaign for like one person, like just to even get. And it's like in the same space where, like, and I remember having this conversation many years ago, where it's like, if it's best content creator and stuff like that, or like streamer and stuff, and I'm like, so I can't be nominated because that would be fucked up. Because just in general of me calling upon 3 million plus people to be like, hey, support me in some way, which was like the streamer award thing, which we didn't even win that compared to even bigger streamers in other regions. It's like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, was like the opposite happened at the streamer awards, where I was like, yeah, Max is obviously going to win this.
Exactly.
And then it didn't I was like, who is this guy? I don't know who this guy is,
And that's dude, I remember Sajam saying congratulations on winning this at the streamer awards. And I'm like, bro, you don't, I'm like, I don't know about this, bro. Like, I campaigned pretty hard for that. And this dude overseas, I was like, Etoile has like a big overseas following, and a really hardcore one. I don't know. And then he won. And it was like, yeah, I kind of saw this happening. So even in that space, it's like the campaigning political side of it is just like, who has enough, quote unquote, I'd say, equity. And by equity, it's just like the amount of people that are following you. And it's almost like unfair. It's like, damn, dude.
And I do want to say, like, the people who were like nominated, like, totally made sense to me, because I feel like they are like the face of like most FGC YouTube. Like Brian F to me is like, that's Mr. Street Fighter on YouTube. That makes sense. Diaphone, he has a tutorial for like every single game. They all get like consistent viewers. I feel like those are more like FGC facing YouTubers. Yeah. I make videos about fighting games. I talk about the FGC, but like, they represent the FGC more than like something I would do. So like, whenever I saw that, it was like, that makes sense to me.
That's kind of a good point, where it's like, even the space that we all sit in, we kind of like, I would say 90% focus the game, and then sort of like 10 to 15% focus the community and reception of said game, right? Where a large amount of FGC focused content is literally around, how is the FGC reacting to something? And the response to what this person thinks of that reaction to the thing, So it's a bit different. Like, that's where the space is like, I think there could be a different category of something that allows for things like, GuileWinQuote videos, much less Matt videos, much less anything that allows us to investigate the space of fighting games, much less the history of fighting games, retro things, like all that kind of stuff. The fact that there was like no old school retro category in some way is like, that should exist. Like, there should be something there for that to exist,
We need to make a category that Bloody Roar can win. I don't care what the award is. I want Bloody Roar to, but actually, further your point, the only thing I could see you doing is like making 2 or 3 content creation streamer categories, YouTube categories that are like technical and non-technical.
Yeah.
Like, Thorgy should win a non-technical fighting game, because it's like the best retrospectives, the best history of this game, but like doesn't regularly make like, here's how you play this game, here's day one combos, etc. But like, how are you supposed to separate those two things? Because those are two things that are like, this is appealing to this group and this is appealing to this group. It'll be really, really interesting if they make these changes over the next couple of years to see that, like, maybe drop best dressed. For these things.
That's the only one that I was like, all right, come on.
And dude, what the fuck is best button? Like, and it goes to Ken's low forward, and it's like, and it's like not even his best fucking button. I'm like, this is so whack, bro. And it loses to running punch from Granblue. This is fucking whack.
I want a future where the EVO Awards get so big that developers are purposely overtuning buttons so they can hopefully win this award.
Yes, I like it. Something that crosses up and is also an empty jump low at the same time.
Yeah. Like, could you actually have an award for like most broken game released this? Like I mean, that's a category I can see that's kind of funny. That's like, but no, who would?
This is still a publisher event.
Capcom?
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if like, is the developer happy? Like, hey, we won best button, everyone.
Sure.
you know, thank
Wonderful.
you.
I would be happy. I'd be happy with that. But yeah, no, it was a really, really interesting show. You know, like a really good atmosphere, and yeah, hopefully next year they can make further refinements, and we shall see. So since the last episode, and sorry we missed last week, everybody, but like Max is feeling a bit under weather. Justin had just arrived in Thailand, so he was like dead. So he really couldn't get up that early to do the podcast. So we did miss a few little stories here and there, but I think really quickly we can just talk about our Mai Shiranui impressions now that she's actually released in Street Fighter 6, because she was just about to when we last recorded, but wasn't quite out there yet. But Max has talked about her quite a bit because he got early access on that. But Layton, how do you feel that SNK? Sorry, how do you feel that Capcom did with Mai in Street Fighter 6?
Design-wise, marketing, 10 out of 10, of course.
Yes.
Gameplay, I love projectiles that are, you know, I love oppressive stuff that makes someone like hold something, you know? So I'm a big fan of her projectile. I'm a fan of the idea, but at least right now it does, I feel like, kind of boil down to like a strike throw machine, which, I mean, I don't know what else it really could do in this engine right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest fan of like her level 1, like how it's working and how you're supposed to build stocks, but Street Fighter 6, at least to me, emphasizes like you should probably be saving for this level 3 a lot of the time, you know, or if you're going to use a level 1, you're probably at a point where you can maybe kill them anyways, you know? So it's like, when are you supposed to use this super to build up stock so you could do her cool stuff?
Yeah.
So it's a mix. I like her because I don't know, she does have an interesting gimmick. She's not just, you know, a character with a low forward that, you know, does a million damage. She has like an idea with the fan that sets her apart. Every time I think about Street Fighter 6, I feel like it's the only fighting game where I feel like I'm not smart enough to make a change that like fixes something in my head, you know?
I got one that I can propose that is specifically Mai related, right? Because I think I echo your exact same sentiments when I was playing People. When you're in training mode, you're like, she's crazy. Like, I can't believe it. She's crazy. You have to hold all this. You have 50-50s, and then you play it, and it's like, huh. Like, she just turns into, like, strike throw the character when you're holding a fan that's bouncing above your head. So I was like, what would make this chick more interesting? Like, something about it is, like, the game is like, almost, like, playing itself in some way. In a way, she feels like, she reminds me of Bison, but worse. Where the game sort of becomes very like by the numbers when you throw these fans out. But you spend a lot of your time burned out with her because the only time to start that is that you got to throw an EX fan and then run your ass behind it. So you're 3 bars down. And if you don't guess right, well, like this is going to be bad. I was promoting the idea. I was like, what if you can hold the fans and then backdash or forward dash out of them? What if they were like Jago and KI? Where it's like
there we go.
Dash forward. Like you could feint them in some way. I'm like, that would have been kind of maybe something different. Because right now it's like you are either holding fan or not holding fan. Like that is it. And the non-hold fans are awful. Like they're some of like the worst projectiles. They're really slow. Like you pretty much are holding fan almost the entire time. I think she looks amazing. And I got her to, I think I got her to like the master rank or something in a relatively short period of time. It took me like 2 to 3 times as long with Terry, but I was having so much more fun with Terry. just I can acknowledge that Terry is a tough nut to crack, but I'm really enjoying myself like optimizing this bitch. And with my like not so much, I pretty much like have to do this EX fan and then like run in. This is what I have to do to begin anything. And I was like, I was getting a little bored.
Yeah, I get what both of you mean, where it's like, it's almost like this gimmick is her gimmick, and that's that's the game plan the entire time. And Terry really didn't have like that. He's just like all around character that can do this and this. And it was like, he didn't really have like a specific gimmick that was so overt as his game plan is supposed to like flow into. But then people were like, Terry doesn't really have any actual sauce. Like he doesn't have like, that's what I remember people kind of saying like, no, they did a good job. But at the same time, he's not that interesting. But at the same time, it's like, if you have everything pinned on this one Firestock gimmick, I could see that getting a little bit. It would
have been a lot different if the fire, like what the fire did was maybe more interesting. Like the best thing that it does is really give you some unique combo opportunities. Like gives you like a little bit of an extra juggle if you use the fireball back move, right? And it's like, okay, that's cool. Like it is cool, but does it change your approach? No. Like your fans are still going to get knocked out if you use the normal fans. The fire ones are good, but you still have to charge the fire ones. The situation's the same. So until you get the hit, then things actually change, right? So I almost wish it stayed. Like, I almost wish you kept that stock the whole round, and she just was like Jamie drink buffed, the whole time.
Right. Or at least have it like carry between rounds. I don't know. Something needed to change, because it, not to mention, it was also like crazy hard to combo into. Like if you wanted to do it from mid screen, you had to spend multiple bars to even combo it mid screen. And if you didn't spend the bars, you had to shorten the combo so much to be a ground string, like off of like a couple of light attacks, that it does no damage. And it's like, bruh. It's like, its hitbox is like a straight line vertically.
It's only up. Yeah. So I think she looks really cool, but overall, she reminded me of like a lot of Bison, where it feels like the game's sort of playing itself, but Bison does it so much better. Like Bison makes you hold that shit.
I definitely agree about Bison though. When I was playing him the first time, and even when he came out, I was like, yeah, this very, simple, straightforward character, and his thing is this thing.
Yeah.
And at first I thought Mai was like, oh, she's got so much going for her. She can do this and this, and this move looks cool and blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, I can kind of agree. It all leads down to the same path.
A little bit.
I will give you, of course, my semi-bi-monthly World Tour report for this character, as I did with Terry. Unfortunately, they kind of just did the exact same thing. It's the Knockout Festival in Metro City. So you meet up, and there were some real highlights, like because you have to do a tag team fight, you need a partner. You're going around Metro City and you find cosplayers that are not cosplayers, but like characters that are Dong and Jae-hoon from Garo are just kind of standing there, but they're obviously not them. Yeah. And then there's the Jin twins from Real Bout that are all there. And I'm like, oh my God, these are such good pulls.
They talk about Duck King.
Duck King is like in there in general. He was around during Terry's thing, but these were new for my storyline. And yeah, there's some nice progression. There was Mai saying what she thinks, that she would love to maybe marry Andy one day. Did you know this? Did you know that she wants to marry Andy?
Never heard of that.
Never heard of that. And I love that people saw that image from the World Tour mode saying, oh, they did it. SNK did it. Like, here's this image of them getting married, and all these Street Fighter women are celebrating the marriage.
Yeah.
And then people had to be like, no, this is her dream.
It's a dream.
But her also really wanting to take on Kimberly, Ninja versus Ninja. What's better, a Shiranui Arts or a Bishinryu? I was like, oh, that's good. That's really good.
That is cool.
There are some nice little cutscenes there thrown in there. And the ending of it is not as epic as Terry's, where he kind of fought Ryu. But it was still well done. They characterize Mai very well. She like explains like her costume, and that it's like a tradition, and she made alterations throughout the year. She's like, yeah, I got rid of the chain mail. That wasn't good for ninjas. So I decided to just take that in. I had my mom take it in and then just get rid of that. So there was lots of nice little highlights, but I still prefer Terry's overall story. It was more of a celebration of the character, and Mai's just kind of like, I'm here. And,
yeah, it's like the newness of it too. Like Terry and Ken are talking to each other and they're like, we should fight like for reals in the future. Yeah, see ya, bro. And it was like, oh, CVS is coming back. Like
exactly.
Now like now there's Ken and Chun-Li in Fatal Fury. Like this is just happening. Like we just know this now.
Very much. I also saw that I think like in World Tour mode you can get like avatar moves from like Andy and Joe.
Yep.
Which I mean, is this like Capcom just making animations for CVS in the future? Like, hey, we already made Joe's or like Andy's shoulder for the avatar.
Yeah.
Now we can just use it.
Yeah, they're not approximation animations. It's just Zeniken. Like it's no other like move from an avatar or whatever. So they have 2 so far. I have to imagine there'll be like 1 or 2 more if there's more guest characters in the future. But yeah, why not? Why not use those moves? You already animated them. But I think I have to say this. Andy has this one line. You meet Andy and he's just on Mai's World Tour stage and he's just sitting there and he's like, sorry, I can't take new students on because I just realized I'm awful. I have so much to learn and I'm no good.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Zeniken.
I mean, that was it. I mean, that's his lore, right? That's why he can't marry Mai, because he's like, I just have too much to do. Man.
His stupid brother. His stupid brother is setting unrealistic expectations for him.
You're not wrong, because both Mai and Andy are like, he's stupid. He's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never beat him. And she's like, if he doesn't beat him, then he'll never marry me. We all hate Terry. Anyway. But yeah, it was overall a good time. I really hope Elena's World Tour mode is also packed with as much stuff there, because this is our first Street Fighter 3 character. So I hope they do Street Fighter 3 World Tour mode, almost. So we shall see. So we already talked about it once or twice. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves beta is, as of the time of this recording, still out. We're still playing it. It's day 2, I think, roughly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's some polish to be done.
There's definitely going to be another beta. That's for sure.
I think SNK just recently kind of hinted, like, yeah, we might have to do another beta. How long are your general wait times for getting a match?
Now? 30 to 60 seconds on average.
Okay.
It's pretty quick. Yesterday I tried.
Yesterday was rough.
I tried like a ranked match once. I got matched with someone. The MS was unbelievable. And then I just played room matches, which I have complaints about as well for the rest of the day. But today I did try it again, and it was like, oh, okay, I can just get into a regular match.
Yeah. Yeah, the room matches I think are like almost like the bright spot of this, while also being a blight, because it's like the cursor thing is the weirdest thing ever. But at least it's like, oh, this is kind of neat. Like the host stays on this one station and you can line up, and all these other fights can actually go down in these other slots. Somebody reminded me it was like KOF 14, and I'm like, you're right. Yeah. This isn't like 15. It's like the old one, like this, and that was actually really good.
Forgot about that. I forgot that's how 14 was.
Yeah, people have been asking for that 14 lobby to come back. Like since 15 dropped. It was like, what happened? Let's go back. It was perfect
15's room lobbies were bad.
Yeah. Like day 1, I was waiting 10 minutes between every match, and that was on Steam. And then I'll go over to Xbox. It was like slightly worse, or even way worse. I can't remember now. And today I was playing before. I was recording some matches before today, and it was quicker for sure.
Yeah.
How have connections actually been? Like, how's the actual any stuttering or anything? Because I've been okay. I've been fine.
I had some pretty decent impressions from day 1, playing some folks in Europe and shit, and it's shockingly playable. However, I had a pretty rough night last night, where even in like 100 MS connections, which should be fine, and these are relatively high quality, like 2 to 4 to 3 to 4 bar connections. I was running into a lot of rough stuttering, man. And the reason I was able to notice this, I think, is because I was going up against obviously like better players. I'm in like the 11,000 rank, so I'm just getting all the other pro streamers and shit like that. And I'm like, okay, so this is fun when it's working, but it was working like not even half the time because, man, like I was missing like the first 4 to 6 frames of what was happening on some attacks. So when dudes are short hopping me, I don't see like this. I see them going here, and then they're in the air, and I'm like, whoa, oh shit. And there's a lot of like little teleporting like that in between some of those moments. There was a lot of that last night, which was really unfortunate. And even if I constrained, here's an interesting thing. I constrained the connection. Give me only 4-bar connections. It took just as long to find people, the exact same time. And then I opened it up, took just as long to find people, the exact same time. I was still waiting like 30 to 60 seconds to find folks. It never changed. And even when I was getting people that had higher quality connections, some of them actually sucked. Like it said it was high quality, but it sucked. And then somebody reminded me of a term, the catfish connection. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't used that term in a long time. Oh, it was from KOF 15. KOF 15 had catfish connections like crazy, where it's like, oh, I finally found somebody cool. It's like high bars. No, it sucks, actually. It was not. The reporting of how the game is reporting a quality connection can kind of be all over the place. So, yeah, like, I think overall, it sits adjacent to KOF 15, right? It doesn't really feel like a massive improvement over it, other than the fact that we are finding matches, but there's things outside of the matchmaking and even the netcode that are cause of frustration of just like how the online experience works.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't really get any stuttering and stuff, and like today was improved in actually finding the matches. I was looking at some stuff that I was just like, yeah. I didn't notice it at first, but no, actually I noticed it during the exhibition at the EVO Awards. So when they're on Terry's train stage, and if you're looking at the characters, you're fine. You take one look at the trains moving in the background, and my eyes got all fucked up.
Gonna barf.
Because it wasn't that bad, but when I'm looking at it, I'm like, I know that this can totally bother some people.
Yeah.
And it's like, when it's the other stages or people just cheering you on in the background, it's fine. It still looks a little funky, but
bro,
it's
when
fine.
you have like a scrolling screen that is parallaxing with 3 different layers and shit, and it's running at half the frame rate between all of those layers. Yeah, anytime you look at the background, you just have to go like, oh, I have to like shake my head.
And like, yes, can we pick our own stages that we're always fighting on them? Absolutely. But like, it's still an issue. Conceptually, the train stage is really cool. It has the changes of time of day and the backgrounds. Like, it sucks. Like, I'm not sure if it's an oversight, a technical bug, or it's just, this is the way we designed it. Like, are they supposed to be at this low frame rate? Because to be fair, the older builds that we all played, like at EVO and stuff, like it didn't have these stages. So I didn't notice any issues in them. But yeah, I hope it's addressed some way.
I think it just lines up with the way the rest of the game works. Like the backgrounds run at 30, like everywhere. And this one that is obviously like a ton of like left, right, left motion happening, and it doesn't, it's like, oh no, oh gosh, this looks very odd.
Yeah, I'm not sure the validity on this, but someone's saying because of the PS4 version, and is this on Xbox One? I don't even remember.
It's a PS4 version, yeah.
Yeah, this might be a thing that they have to do to get the game to run on PS4, but it's like, I don't know if that's true, but even if it is, that shouldn't be the case on more powerful hardware then. Maybe just for the PS4. That still sucks for PS4 owners if that has to happen, but I do hope it's addressed. Fortunately, SNK did seem to be like taking this all into consideration, saying, everyone just go to this Twitter thread here, just let me know everything, SNK USA guys. So hopefully that's addressed. Another small thing is that I was like, there's some vocal performances that I'm like, I just prefer the Japanese one, like Kind for sure.
Yeah.
But you can't switch character specific English or Japanese like you have been able to for Street Fighter for like since what, Street Fighter 4? I think that's when they were able to put specific characters on Japanese or English, and like I hope that's there eventually, because I like Rock like a lot in English. I think he sounds great. Terry too. But then other characters, I'm like, no, I just prefer the Japanese version. Like, and I was kind of disappointed that option wasn't there. And we're only 2 months roughly away from launch, so
only so much can change.
only so much can change. Yeah. So that kind of bugged me a little bit, but I mean, in terms of gameplay and stuff, it's like I'm just let it all shake out. I trying to incorporate like breaking and fainting because I still haven't like put that into practice yet. But yeah, no, in terms of actual gameplay, I was having still a blast playing it against real people because I didn't really get a good opportunity at EVO. I was just like sojourned into the room alone. There's no one else in the room, so I've only mostly been fighting AI up until that point. So it felt really good to actually fight people though. Like I was having a blast. What about you, Lane?
Yeah, gameplay. I think any complaints that I have, I think are just like fighting game boomer complaints. Like
I know what you're gonna bring up.
My biggest complaint, the faint being on the rev button.
Yeah.
And right now you can't remap the rev button, which is just I don't expect that to stay the same. I feel like they will allow you to map it in the full game.
So.
But it just feels awkward having that fifth button there. I'm accepting of the rev gauge. I'm accepting of a dash macro, even a hop macro, but I wish I could just faint like in Mark of the Wolves or something. So that's my big fighting game boomer complaint. I don't want an extra button. Get rid of that. But everything else
and all their buttons.
But everything else, I'm happy to see a modern fighting game that has a very obvious and very strong defensive mechanic.
Yep.
Because, I feel like every fighting game that's come out in the past like 5-10 years has punished you for blocking. And this game still does punish you for blocking, but if you have the execution, if you're good, you can say nope, which I appreciate, and I feel like that is going to be what makes this game extremely hype whenever, we see people at the top 8 at EVO. We're going to see like insane just defense, just like we do in Mark of the Wolves,
Yeah.
So, and things that I feel like wouldn't have been, like Kine, flash kick, break, being like relatively safe and stuff. I feel like that kind of fighting game design doesn't really exist in a lot of modern fight. Like if you do a DP or something, modern fighting game trends is like you die for that DP if you guessed wrong. But here it's like, oh, hey, I could DP and break it. And that feels very like good. It's like, oh, we have dumb options again. We have ignorant options, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Kine is like the best example of that because he's the zoner, right? But his rushdown is also some of the best in that friggin' game because of this DP cancel that like has zero recovery if you break it.
It feels awesome. And, I saw like, I saw some tweets complaining about like, oh, Kine players like throwing fireballs, Yeah, he's the zoner, like it feels good. Like we have a game where a character can zone as a win condition. You don't have to, be frame trapping someone point blank to win,
Yeah.
So, I think it's a good mix of old and new. And thankfully, of course, this is the beta. This is the honeymoon period. But usually whenever I follow a lot of like older fighting game players who play like, Third Strike, Super Turbo, Mark of the Wolves. And anytime a new fighting game comes out, they hate it automatically. But I've seen a lot of Mark of the Wolves players like being like, I love this right now, So it's cool to be in this, to play a game that kind of, that has old school sensibilities, which makes sense because like KOF 15 is probably the most old school new game that exists right now.
Much.
So I feel like SNK knows that market is important for their legacy.
Same thing for Samurai Showdown in 2019. Like it did not try to like it everything that it kind of did was like old stuff that Samurai Showdown did at one point of one of the entries and still like, de-emphasized, huge combos and stuff like that. So they definitely, and I even quickly booted up the Steam version of Garo just really, really quickly to play it for like, 10 minutes. Then I jumped back into the beta and I was like, there's such similar speed and weight to certain things. Like certain normals just felt really similar to like how they do in Garo. So I was just kind of in my head trying to connect the two. I'm like, yeah, it does feel like it, which must be really hard to do. Like a lot of fine tuning had to go into that. So, yeah, I hope that second beta comes around, and do not really like maybe switch out like 3 characters.
That would be great.
Put
yeah,
like Tizok, Marco, maybe Donghwan or Jaehoon if he's announced. Something like that. Just like 3, I think, is a good number.
Yeah,
like, to switch out.
There's a couple of things I think I can mention with some perspective, because I played quite a bit of the game in different versions leading up to this point, and there was a lot of changes in this version of the game. And we noticed it right before EVO. There was like a small playable, which was the network test, sort of like demo. And when we were playing it, it's like, I think characters have more light confirms. Like characters just have more abilities to combo after like several light attacks into a launcher / break attack. And some characters really do. Like Vox is the best example of that. He just gets like massive damage for like jab, and going into all this shit, you know? And Rock got a lot better at that too, where before his light confirms were ass. He got like almost nothing. He could barely combo into a special. And now he gets like 35% meterless, no rev gauge. It's like, whoa, holy shit. That's a lot different. And weirdly enough, like some funny things, like Terry has it, but it's really hard with him because it requires like a DP break cancel off of 2 light attacks. And before it was much easier for him. Like Terry felt like he was really good before. And now he's like a bit harder to play. He feels just like kind of slow and weighted. It feels like he's playing the game online. In comparison to some of the other characters. It's like, that's weird. But the first thing I noticed when I was playing it like on a laptop, and I was wondering if there was like, maybe it's the laptop, maybe it's the setup I'm playing on, game had a little bit more input delay, even offline. So I was like, like the overall feel of the game did not feel the same that I remember back in like the playable moments at EVO and Summer Games Fest. I was like, this is weird, but it could be chalked up to several things. Confirmed that's the way it is, dude. Like the whole game seems to feel like it has a bit of caked in input delay that has been added to everything. So now we're seeing a pretty consistent complaint with people that are feeling like the game feels like it's underwater because it's a heavier feeling game already. Like period.
It's very, like and now, go to Mark of the Wolves.
You go online and it adds 2 to 3 more frames of delay for the netcode, and then you start to get some very weighty feeling fighting game stuff.
Yeah, like if you go to Mark of the Wolves and just start dashing with like Kevin. Like it's very like snappy. This definitely is like
KO at 15, weightier. Snappy game, like very snappy. This one does not feel that way, and I it's kind of hard to say because I have to like revisit thoughts back then. But this change definitely was there, where it's like even in the offline experience, this is how people that are like, why would they do that? Well, they usually do that for netcode purposes, right? Where a fighting game will inherently cake in input delay even to its offline experience, so that everyone's set on this standard of how the game feels, and they can use that as a buffer to have less impact on rollback and all that kind of stuff. But again, you get online, and it's adding even more delay, like on top of that, and it could start to feel not particularly great.
I really hope for the next beta, if there is one for Justin, if you're watching out there, they take out Jenny and they replace her with Tizok. I just hope that so much for him. Speaking of which, Jenny, I don't know how many Jennies you fought, a terror as she should be.
Yeah, she seems good.
Very good. It's weird giving her a counter, like a good counter, and then it was just weird having to do it, and it's like a DP motion, I think. So I was just trying to get used to that. It was like kind of crazy, but yeah, I like overall impressions I think are good, but it's like this beta was important considering there are some issues that people are having just outside the core gameplay and stuff. The menus, people not liking how the menus are too. There's like a lot of weirdness.
Yeah. The probably one of the weirdest things about the whole game, there's so much input delay in the menus. Yeah. Like making any kind of selection is just like, I feel like I'm playing online on Xbox in 2003, dude.
So I saw that apparently the menus feel like that because it's like, it's not reading the input whenever you put it. Like whenever you input it, it's like reading the release. So it's like negative edging the menu. That's what I saw.
Menus.
I saw a tweet that said that. So I I wouldn't know why the menu would be laggy. So, and since everyone is feeling that, I'm kind of believing it.
Yeah.
Dude, just like on the versus screen right before you get into a match, and you have to pick where your SPG gauge goes. That just selecting that feels so weird. Like, I'm just moving this shit left and right, but it's one of the weirdest, funkiest feeling things in the whole game.
At the end of the day, it's menus. It's not a make or break thing. But at the end of the day, it's menus. There should not be
right. Yeah. But that also accompanies this thing where like a lot of these people have this impression that the game feels sluggish and stuff like that. Even the menus feel sluggish. It is just further amplifying this narrative of just like the game feel is sort of odd. Like something is off between selections, if not button presses and things of that nature,
Yeah. So unfortunately, one thing we are going to miss by the time this episode comes up, I think the day this podcast goes out, there'll be the Tekken 8 like kind of season 2 live stream, or are they going over the patch notes?
Yeah, so it's a Tekken talk, and all the devs are going to get together and they do their PowerPoint thing, and they'll have their demo. So this is kind of a big one because it is the introductory to season 2, and even Bandai Namco was kind of hyping it up when they got that award at the EVO Awards. So like, get ready for season 2 type stuff. And it's like, okay, we'll see, because there's the big difference between this version of Tekken 8 is that, yes, it went through a lot of changes from the beta. Like the beta to the release, there was a lot of changes. But this is almost comparable now to a Tekken 7 situation. The amount of time that has passed since it was like first playable to the point of which now it's going to be in a season 2. That passage of time was kind of like the launch of Tekken 7 to a Fated Retribution / home version of that game for Tekken 8. So give the game like a year and a half to 2 years to sort of solve things and figure things out. That's what's riding on this. Where it's like, okay, so there's obviously some concerns and complaints about the way the game plays and powerful options and yada, yada, yada. And, the lack of, I guess some people would describe it as personal investment into characters where you really can't play things that differently. You got to play the system, which is a fair criticism. Are they going to alleviate any of that? Are they going to take that stuff away? Are they going to buff sidesteps or have less trackable moves? Like all that kind of stuff.
I still think that might be a little too soon for season 2 almost. Like I think even though your point about the time frame being the same, it's like I think that's may even be a season 3 thing. Because I think like season 2 content and changes were already figured out like a while back. They already planned. I'd like to think that you're right though, because it's been we've already passed the anniversary of the game releasing, right?
Yeah, it's already going to be like well over a year. Yeah. So we're definitely getting some kind of new mechanical thing, right? And Tekken has done this throughout like the previous seasons of the game, where like something changes, like some mechanical thing is different. The
fatalities.
It doesn't feel that way because Street Fighter 6 is still functionally and mechanically kind of the same thing. The biggest thing that changed Street Fighter 6 was like the drive rush input, drive rush cancel. They changed it to 2 buttons instead of forward only. So it was like, oh, that was like one of the biggest mechanical differences in that game. And we've been playing that game the same for like a while now. So yeah, we're in a similar spot where 6 is obviously going to change and 8 is most likely going to go through some changes. And I think expectation wise, like that is there, man. Like some of the criticisms of how Tekken 8 plays has absolutely been like established, and the thoughts are out there and they're definitely reading those thoughts. So if this doesn't do that, if it's just like, they're obviously adding more moves, but if they just give characters more powerful options, that doesn't exactly fix some of the core concerns that some of the players have. Clive didn't fix everything. He, in fact, added more issues to how the game sort of is. He exemplified the issues. So it's exciting. It's kind of a moment where everyone's going to jump back into Tekken 8 again to sort of hopefully learn a new game if they commit to going that route.
We'll see what the Tekken talk. I don't even expect like, show us the first character, maybe just do the silhouettes again if you have to. But like, I think the main thing of them showing like this is how the game is going to change, like you're saying, is like the real important thing. It's because here's new characters. That's not really the game's main issue, unfortunately. So yeah, there's also a couple of quick character reveals we can discuss, like Granblue Fantasy versus Rising Season 2. Ton of cool looking characters added in this. I think I'm gonna have to jump back in because I only played this very, very briefly when it launched, Rising. But seeing some of these new characters, including like what's her name? Meg? Yeah, I'm liking Meg. So
yeah, they're going full send. Like there's a full season, full roster of characters. Arc System Works isn't doing nothing back there.
Refreshing. Here's the full season right now. But yeah, what are you guys thinking of all this so far?
For Granblue, I think I'm excited, but none of those characters are like, I've never seen any of these dudes before.
True.
Yeah, I had a friend who plays the gacha game explain, and I think like with Meg, he's like, yeah, she has like shark gauntlets and stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Or like this character turns into a dragon, sort of thing. My experience with Granblue is from Versus and Relink, which are both really good games, but I have no investment in the characters as characters. I just see them as functions, I guess. So yeah, I'm gonna wait till I see the gameplay.
I had the Siegfried guy when Versus Rising came out, so that gave me that was like before I think even Versus was out. People were like hyping up this Siegfried guy, like, you love him, he's just Siegfried from Soul Calibur. I'm like, sick, bro. Yeah, I hope he's in the game. And then they finally did it, so that gave me my in to like experience it. And yeah, like 100 to 200 like online matches with that dude. I was like, this game's good. Like, no, this game's actually way better. I was bored to tears by the initial Granblue Fantasy Versus. I just did not like it very much. But that was the impressions from like the beta / launch of the game, and it already changed a lot over the years since then. Versus Rising is a massive improvement, and it also is free to play to a degree. So this is like a full endorsement. That game's cool, and it arguably I think is the best looking Arc System Works game in my personal opinion.
I feel like it's like the sleeper hit in the FGC, not in terms of like, like there's not a lot of discourse about it, good or bad. It's just consistently like, people show up, people are playing it, it's getting updates, people like it. And so like it's kind of in the background, even though it's like a good game, if that makes sense.
There was the 66p is the biggest discourse it ever had.
Yeah.
And that didn't even last that long. It was like a couple months, and then they did not make it nearly as powerful as it was before,
Like when they went down the changes that Rising was going to get, like that's almost what like, you'd hope Tekken 8 or Street Fighter 6 will get at some point. Like, not that it has to be rebranded with like a subtitle or anything, but like, here's all these slight changes, like little visual changes. This looks cleaner. And like, here's these changes and this and this and this. Like you kind of hope for that, but like, I don't think but because it's like the game got destroyed by like being released in 2020. Yeah. Like the start of 2020, and they're like, we have to do something drastic.
The last local I went to before the pandemic, I played Granblue, so that's what I imagine. Like a day later, everything went into lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. But it's looking good, the season 2 stuff. Speaking of someone, mainly me, not understanding anything about these characters, Hunter x Hunter. Hunter, Mac.
Oh boy.
Don't put the eggs.
Don't diss it. All right, this is top 5. This is the GOAT manga. I've been reading it for literally 18 years of my life. All right,
I am super happy for you. I have no idea who all these little children are. But I'm glad people that read this are really into it.
I'm just going to throw it out because we haven't talked about Hunter x Hunter a whole bunch because I haven't even played it. But I was just looking at this like in trailer form because this is the most Hunter x Hunter I've ever seen in trailer form, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I don't even know the previous thing I'm talking about. I just know it offhand. I'm like, this looks like Yu Yu Hakusho. Right, chat? Like, this kind of looks like Yu Yu Hakusho. And the chat's like, oh, no, it's the same creator. It's like the same shit. And I'm like, oh, well, okay then.
And he's been writing it for almost 30 years at this point. He's very sick. He releases 1 chapter every year. His wife is the Sailor Moon, the creator of Sailor Moon, and she's helping him draw it. We're all in this together, all right? Hunter x Hunter fans, we're in it for the long haul, so.
That game looks way more polished. Like, in that trailer, it's like, oh, okay, this is significantly better than what they were showing when it was first being shown.
Absolutely, because whenever it was first shown, I had friends who are like they're not fighting game players, but they like Hunter x Hunter, and they were like, oh, this game looks horrible. And I was like, no, you don't get it. It's a fighting. Like, you don't need, like, just play it. It doesn't matter.
Shut up.
But like now, like with that last trailer that came out, they were like, oh yeah, like I'm interested in this game now.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way.
And then there's the biggest sting of that reveal was like, I think it has 16 to 18 characters. And it is a 3v3 game, and it is full price.
That's what I was about to say. The biggest sting was seeing the price tag, and I was like, "Oh, this is like knock on wood. You can't price your game that way, man.
No, bro.
Like you can't."
Even DNF Duel was cheap. That was a $49.99 game. Yeah. That was not full price either, and that did not work out great.
Obviously, I'm the Hunter x Hunter fan. I'm probably gonna get this no matter what, but I am very worried because, of course, when the game first came out, it looked not the best. And then the game was supposed to come out like last year. And then out of nowhere, they were like, oh, hey, we're just redesigning this entire game. It's not a 3v3 Marvel versus Capcom style game. It is now an active tag game.
Yeah.
And also, we're going to add rollback now. And it's like, you weren't planning on having rollback in the first place? This isn't 2019 anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say the cutoff is 2019, maybe 2020 of like rollback not being like the standard, but like 2025, my guy.
And then seeing the price, seeing the roster, and then just seeing so many tweets like, "Hey, this game cost a month of rent in Brazil." Like, I'm not gonna buy this game. There's no regional pricing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's something that was also an issue. That even in like Gauro's situation, I heard about the regional pricing with that, and it's cheaper in like South American regions and some other ones where the games are just really expensive for digital content. Apparently, it's much cheaper there.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's cheaper where it costs like a normal game price instead of like a $90 game or something.
So,
but even then,
I want this game to survive. I love aiding. I love Hunter x Hunter, but yeah, I feel like a lot of it is a bit tone deaf. A lot of the things they're doing, so that's how I feel right now.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's why I was like, oh, we have Hunter x Hunter news. I gotta bring Leighton in.
They announced the character I wanted. All I wanted was Kite. And so I'm like, hell yeah, this is the one dude I wanted. And then, then I saw $60 and I was like, what are you doing?
And to be real, a 3v3 assist-based game that also has active tag is kind of like, that's pretty wild. Like I don't think that has actually been done before. We got a lot of 2v2s that are like that, but not a proper like 3v3 with an MVCI style active tag and all the other glitz and glam of what an old Marvel 3 has, It's like, oh, okay, that's a lot of stuff.
And I get what you're saying, Liam, because it's like whenever I go back to an old like PS2, like, manga fighting game, Arena Fighter, I'm like, please just Hajime no Ippo somewhere in here. I don't care which character it is. I just want one. So I'm glad they're able to get your character in there. But yeah, July 17th for this, which is also like, skipping Xbox on this one. I'm not too shocked, obviously. Given the source material and everything, but do you think the license, like overall, is enough to like eke this out to be a success despite the price and everything? Like, is the license that popular? Because I actually don't know.
Among like shonen fans, Hunter x Hunter is like consistently like one of those like, this is one of the greatest of all time, and because the author has gone on hiatus so long, and he's sick. Legitimately, whenever he posts on his Twitter account, like a chapter page for like a new chapter, it gets like 500,000 likes on Twitter. I've seen it get up to like, whenever he came back from his big hiatus, it got up to like almost 1 million likes.
Shit,
like
okay.
It is one of like the most beloved mangas like ever. So in Japan, I feel like, maybe it could, because there also hasn't been a Hunter x Hunter game since like the DS and PSP. So
right.
This should be huge, and the anime is like accessible on Netflix and stuff. It could have been like, of course we're not going to get to Dragon Ball levels, but this could be successful. I just don't know if it's going to be now,
Okay, fair enough. could, if this was like, you know, a really great looking, like, you know, top tier Arxis looking sort of thing, you know, big production values, like that would be like the safer bet. But you still think like the license is enough to carry what this game is, and at its price, like it's still got a good shot of, you know, achieving a profit for Arxis. Yeah.
I think Japan will have to carry.
Okay.
And I would have said South America would have carried, but they can't. The game's too expensive. So, unfortunately, because it's huge in South America too. So,
okay. All right. So, probably do need to talk about this a little bit because it was right before our last episode went up. And Multiversus, everyone probably knows this by now. Multiversus is shutting down in May. I think Aquaman and somebody is the last
Lola Bunny.
character.
Lola Bunny.
Yes, is the last character.
My Lola.
And I don't know. I'll probably need to make a what happened at some point about this because
a lot happened.
The fall was swift for Multiversus, unfortunately, and it just really, really smacks of corporate like mismanagement of the whole idea, the whole premise. And obviously, the game had some gameplay like, you know, issues from the initial release to the final one, but it just seems like someone okayed this, dude, and then someone else was hired and said, I don't like this, shut it down. That's what it strikes me as.
So the biggest thing to me was that, like, just speaking from my perspective of someone that didn't play the game a ton, but like put some time into it to like come to some conclusions of how I feel about it. And yeah, the game had some fun stuff to it when you're first revealed. It's like, okay, cool. And it's like a fast, snappy game. That sort of fell apart over time. The weirdest thing, dude, is that the game goes away for like a year and a half. It goes away for a long time. And then it comes back and it's the same thing, but slower.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really feel like there's that much like crazy, like this is such a better game. There was new characters, but those characters felt like they just would have shown up over time in the exact same way. We just went away, you know? So the feeling that like, oh, this is the new relaunch, this is actually our game, that was not really personally felt. Like there might've been some back end stuff that really needed to get done, but from just a consumer standpoint, it was just the same game, but really slow now.
It's the most bizarre thing, really, because anybody that I saw playing it was saying the same thing. Like, it's worse.
Dude,
how could it
and here's
be
the
worse?
weirdest thing. The latest update made it faster. Like,
what?
The update that just came out made the game way faster again. It's like, huh. So this was like, I thought it was a netcode thing. It was like a technicality thing. We need to like hide these frames, so we're just going to slow down things. And it's like, oh, okay, so maybe it's an engineering thing that they're figuring out. No, it was just a choice. And now it's faster. It's like, what the hell?
Was that detailed as a feature? Like we're like speeding things up, everybody, or was it just like a change?
Game speed is back. That's the devs talking. Like it's faster. Check it out.
They also, what shocked me, I mean, I've been tapped out of Multiversus for a while, but I was watching some gameplay and I was like, wait, they're like shielding now. This game didn't have shields.
No, it didn't.
They added Smash Bros shields at like
I didn't even know
the
that.
end. And it's like, like if you're willing to add such like that completely changes the whole game. Like this is a game you didn't have a block before. It was a game on movement
alone, and it was now only movement. So
you could tell that they were throwing, stuff at the wall, like hoping something would stick. Like if they're adding such a like essential game changing mechanic at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
Because I'll give props to that. It's like, most, teams, or at least they're given orders, like just shut it all down, whatever content you have. But like improving the game is like, you don't have to do that, but it's nice that you are, because it's at least leaving something like that was better than when you left it, like versus just letting it die off. Like, yeah, additional characters or whatever, but like actually improving things and giving people stuff that they want is like not that rare. It is that rare. Because they could just let it die on the vine, as it were. But damn, I didn't know the shield thing either.
I think the funniest thing that happened with Multiversus was whenever the game relaunched, my friend bought Iron Giant, and then the next day he wanted to play with me and found out that his character was removed from the game.
Forgot about that.
And he couldn't play. He couldn't play the character that he literally spent money on.
That's insane. Yeah, and I remember that happening with like Taz and shit, where it's like, we're taking Taz offline. I'm like, what? Wait, like it's a helicopter in Warzone or some shit? Like, what are we doing?
So imagine next week, Capcom's like, yeah, we're taking Cammy. She's decommissioned.
We're going to work on her. Don't worry. But
like,
it's crazy.
TWT goes down and just Dragunov's not in the game right now. You know, he's on vacation.
I almost want someone to do that as like a Japanese April Fool's joke. Like, where, yeah, no, Dragunov gone. Yeah. Like,
we heard your complaints.
He's gone. You don't know, that's a crazy thing to think about of the future of fighting games, where it's like, we hear a lot of people are really complaining about this character, so he'll be unselectable for 3 months. Like, oh shit. Oh boy, wow.
No, good stuff. That's like Multiversus, like that. And didn't the Iron Giant thing happen right before like a tournament? Like a major tournament was going down
I think
that weekend.
I think you're right that like, yeah, it was in the middle of a bracket, and so instead they coin flipped to see who won or something, because like the person couldn't play their character.
No, not coin flip. Rock paper scissors.
Rock paper scissors. Rock paper scissors.
Original fighting game.
I think like the biggest story of Multiversus and its weird tumultuous like history is that the thing that allowed it to be as big as it was is kind of like being blamed by a lot of people as being the thing that prevented it from being successful, like the free-to-play aspect. It's like, well, no, free-to-play was actually the whole reason why it blew up. Like, that was the only thing it really had, dude. Imagine if that game was $40. Like, would it have had nearly amount the success and attention it had? It would definitely not. But granted, the way they approached their free-to-play model was not healthy. Like how you had to unlock stuff, what you had to pay to unlock stuff, what happened to certain people. Like Leighton said, it's like, that should not be happening, dude. So it wasn't a Marvel Rivals situation where you have like an amazing game and you can just play that amazing game. Here's all the characters that are completely free and the art bullshit, the extra Barbie costumes that come on the side. Yeah, that's like $20 a pop, you know, and you can make your choice there if you want. That was not that way.
And they go, this is the Invisible Woman skin you get for $20, and this is what we designed. Here it is. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
like, and I will buy that.
If it was in a situation where it was a free-to-play game and it had a model that actually made sense, you know, where it's like, yeah, some people might buy 1 or 2 costumes total, but that we're okay with that, you know? And those costumes are $15 to $20 each. They're not cheap. But we're cool with you just playing our game and jumping back in because we think you're eventually going to find another one you like, you know? And that's that model is like relatively like fair, and it's shown that, yeah, that's, you know, we're watching it happen in real time, that people are kind of committed to that being okay.
And there's similar situations in that here's a bunch of characters from a bunch of different IPs, including DC heroes. And here's this Marvel Rivals thing. I have a friend, Rocky. Oh, what's up, Rocky? That is totally burned down on Marvel. Like, watched all the movies during like Infinity War and all that, and then just got burned out. Like, I don't care anymore. I'm done. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't care about it anymore. I show him Marvel Rivals. He's like, oh, it looks pretty cool. I'm like, it's free. And he's like, oh, I'm playing with him the next day because he got it, right? Yeah. And this is someone that's like not engaging with that IP anymore. And you have multiple IPs in Multiversus, and you know, like you said, the issue of getting characters and stuff. It's like you got to pay for them. Just to play with them, and like all how the model was all screwed up. It's like, yeah, it's a total either 75% mismanagement, 25% maybe like someone's ideas. Let's design it this way. I'm not sure which. Maybe we'll find out one day what exactly went down. But yeah, it went from the most played thing on Steam for a few weeks to being dead in like 2 years later.
The highest recorded consistent online player base for a fighting game of all time recorded. Like, and that we didn't even know what the console numbers were. And there's a high likelihood the PlayStation version had way more people than the Steam version.
And I remember you saying that metric to us like 2 years ago, or like on this very podcast. And I'm like, bullshit. Like,
by a lot,
he's making this up.
No.
And then I click on the story and I look at it, I'm like, oh.
No, by like a lot. Yeah, it really, like, the free-to-play aspect of it launched it into the fucking stratosphere. So just imagine a fighting game and that was my entire proposition around, like, I think free-to-play fighting games should exist. I think there should be a game that, like, hopefully 2XKO is the shining example of this, that just the gameplay loop is so cool that you're just like into it. And if you want to customize your characters, that's where you spend the money. The whole core aspect of the game has to be so sick that people are just going to jump in and play it at all times, and you should just get access to all those characters, right? New characters, old characters, whatever. And if you do a smaller version of it that gives you access to free characters, that's also good too. That's what Killer Instinct and Granblue does. So that's great. I think making the barrier of entry for a fighting game outside of like the cost juxtaposition at the beginning is like always the hurdle. People are like, oh, it's a fighting game. I'm only going to play it for a few minutes. I'll play one character. That's kind of the story people build up in their heads when they're going to invest into these things. So alleviating that is kind of the goal. But just imagine if it was like a Marvel versus Capcom thing, like Marvel Rivals, where a new Marvel versus Capcom game comes out and every character's free. But then they only monetize costumes and stuff.
So good.
And it has great netcode. It has like Capcom Street Fighter 6 netcode. Like, holy shit, that shit would be fucking massive. Like, it would be fucking massive. All of a sudden, Phoenix Wright's back, and you could just play him for free. Like, and get your ass kicked because he's going to be hard to play. Like, all that shit.
And like the Marvel mobile games, like Future Fighter or whatever, there's that fighting game one where it has like the sickest characters ever. Like it has the Deadpool Wolverine, Deadpool
Contest of Champions.
Yeah, Contest of Champions. Thank you. Deadpool Venom Marine. I don't know. Yeah. It's just Deadpool with a Venom symbiote on it, and it's like the sickest looking thing. And it's like that. Those characters could go on forever. Honestly.
And they are. Like, Contest of Champions has been going since like 2014.
Shit, that long? I thought it was like a 2017 thing. But for an actual fighting game, it could just keep going. Like, you're not beholden by the relatively small rosters of Marvel 3 or Infinite. Sure. Like, they could go on infinitely.
But you have... like it comes with the caveat of like Multiversus going down, where it's like, how are you going to play it? Are you even going to be able to play it online? You won't, like that kind of stuff. That is the bigger question in the long run of where do we want fighting games to go as like a competitive game, much less a long time supported like games as a service or something. Because what happens when it's done? Like, do you keep all your shit? Like, and that, yes, like there is still reason that you would want a fighting game to cost $59.99 and it's like subsequent seasons of DLC to be $30 to $40. But that might also make more sense because that game will be playable in that state for a very long time, and this online matchmaking still going to work, even though there's a newer game or a newer game or a newer game. My ass can still fire up a PS3 and play Tekken Tag 2 if I want, if somebody, God forbid, is online.
If they did that and it was a Marvel fighting game and it's like Contest of Champions and it becomes really successful and goes on for a while and like a while. Yeah. And it just keeps adding more and more characters. And it's like, it doesn't end. It just keeps going. Like the developers have to retire because they're getting old, but then their children are then programmers, and then they have to take up their parents' work.
And that's a good question because that's why it's not going to happen, right? Because that's what happened to Multiversus. It was kind of designed with like a small team, and they were put into a situation where, well, now we have a games as a service that is popular, and now we have to meet the demand. Now we have to meet the demand of all these people that like, hey, we like the games, we want to buy stuff. Oh God, what do we do? And they had to start creating content, and they didn't have the personnel to do it. And by the time they had the personnel to do it, it was too late. Capcom and like Bandai Namco like don't really have that. Like Bandai Namco is getting close with some of the costume stuff they're doing. I get you, and that's either okay or not okay to many people. But Capcom doesn't have a history of doing that shit at all. Like, and most of the teams that are there for like Street Fighter, if not post fighting game launches, are much smaller consolidated teams that are just there to like do some things here and there. In the same way that like Arxis is working with Guilty Gear, which is why that's taking a long time. It's much smaller teams and not like a Fortnite squad that is reinventing their fucking game every like 3 months, You're
playing as Sub-Zero in Fortnite.
Yeah, well, I wanted to bring it up. We close, Warner Brothers closes one door at Multiversus. And then we got Mortal Kombat Fortnite. We
literally got the Smash model, the Smash character model of what we wanted Sub-Zero to be in Smash Brothers, and it showed up in Fortnite so many years later, much less what everyone wanted it to be in Multiverses, and now it's in Fortnite.
You wanted specifically the UMK3 Sub-Zero?
Yeah.
MK4
yeah, that was the Sub-Zero I wanted in Smash, in Smash Ultimate. I was like, bro, it's going to happen. We're going to get it.
No, I want unmasked like old Sub-Zero from Deadly Alliance. Like that's the one.
Yeah. No,
Shredder Sub-Zero.
No. Deadly. The Shredder Sub-Zero is awesome. He looks so sick. Just the one that's like unmasked and like it just for some reason he's inexplicably older, but the other characters are not. It was weird. Anyway, I don't know what they're doing with that. So yeah, why don't we wrap up with some other thing that's about costumes, because this is a story we did not get to last time. Is this Capcom finally addressed the sort of, not sure if you've seen it, but anytime Capcom posts anything about Street Fighter 6 on any of their socials, it's a barrage of nobody cares about this avatar shit. Just give us our costumes.
Sure.
And they, finally made a statement, which I never thought we'd ever get.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that they even made this.
And it's a little vague in what it's trying to say. I'm not sure if you guys were able to parse through this or people are able to clarify, but the fact that it's like, yes, you're going to be getting more costumes, but now it seems like we might be getting them sporadically throughout the year, which is really in my head what I thought they should have done from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what they did. Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5.
They did in the previous games. I think it more of is like an echo of what we think it is, where there's just only so many people working on post-game launch content. Like, they don't have games as a service level development teams dedicated to this shit, dude. It's like a core, like 1/4, if not even potentially less, amount of people that even made Street Fighter 6 that are working on this shit with a lot of freelancers. So I just don't think Capcom has the resources to do this. And to be real, the Street Fighter 6 development team, like what the heck are they doing? Well, we don't know. Like, they could be making CVS 3, like something like that could be happening. But there's a reason why this isn't like happening so friggin' fast. And it's because, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. And when you have less people, it's going to take even more time.
And also, I mean, Street Fighter 6 in Japan seems to be like, I feel like it's like a different world over there every time I hear about how popular it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe these avatar costumes are like making bank in Japan,
They might be.
From
my only defense.
We don't know that for sure.
We don't know it for sure. But my only defense is that Street Fighter 6 is like one of the only fighting games that you can engage with that style of content consistently over a long period of time and get like new stuff, right? No other fighting games have that. Like, how do you engage with it? Well, I'm going to buy a bird costume for Ryu in Street Fighter 4, and I'm going to play through arcade mode with it. I don't really care about playing online. Street Fighter 6 is a game that can be played like a normal video game, right? And not just a tool to beat ass. So all the content that is usually added to fighting games is just to make your tool to beat ass look better. Now people are just playing it offline, and it's hard. We don't know the metrics of it. So how many people are actually playing World Tour and just like chilling with this game, doing weird shit with their freak? And I'm actually making a bold assumption that it might be a lot higher than we think it is, and that the game is successful because it offers an experience that is outside of just going online and playing ranked, And
you're saying this because it's really the only thing that makes sense in a profit, like over everything sort of business.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense to keep doing it if it didn't like financially make sense.
Exactly.
So that's the only thing I can think of, because they didn't have any mode or anything like this in Street Fighter 5. The only content you really could give us was characters and their costumes.
And another proposition, you're exactly right. Another proposition is that when you look at like online player charts, you're like Steam numbers, bro, there is 9,000 people playing Street Fighter right now. Why can't I find ranked games? And I'm here to tell you that does not mean they're queued for ranked, dude. That means they're playing Street Fighter 6 on Steam. What they're playing is not what you think it is. Like,
right.
It isn't a beta where the only thing that's functioning is just the beta functions. No, the amount of people that are playing these games, like, for example, the best example is MK11, where it's like, MK11 has so many players on Steam, dude. It has more players than MK1. Like, you could just log into MK11 and find matches. Well, yeah, you can for the most part. But MK11 players aren't just grinding online matches, dude. They're playing the best single-player content that a Mortal Kombat game ever had, which is all of those living towers that are constantly refreshing, and people are trying to get new underwear for their characters and shit. Like, it's like evergreen, dude. People are just going to play it for fucking ever. Street Fighter 6, I think, is in that kind of situation right now.
was actually thinking, I was like, I want to play MK11 again. I think I'm going to reinstall it.
Just to go through some towers and do some dumb shit and unlock some masks and shit. That's always going to be there.
Yeah, it's a good point because I never really thought of it because it's like, yeah, you can spend a while in World Tour. You can spend a while like, doing other stuff than just being in ranked and stuff. But it's still 446 days, even if you don't have a lot
don't
of
get me
people
wrong.
making.
Yeah, it's still like, bruh, like what is happening? You know what is
6 months? I'd be like, that's fine. But like 446 days is yeah, it's hard.
I have a legit criticism with Street Fighter 6, and it's that before the game was out, we had the devs all talking to us and shit, and they'd sit down in these little Capcom directs, and they'd be like, hey guys, we're going to tell you about all this shit that's happening. They did like several of those, and then after the game came out, they were gone.
Awesome.
Completely gone. Yeah. And it was like, man, we really need one of those. Like those should be, Tekken's doing it right now with like the Tekken talks, and it's like, yeah, we would love to have that. It felt like Capcom was like the gods at communicating at the end of Street Fighter 5, pre-Street Fighter 6 era. They're so good at communicating. And now it's like, gone. Like now it's completely gone. Like the game was successful. We'll see you later. We're doing other stuff now,
They had something to prove at that point. They had to win us back. And it's like, oh, you guys like this? All right, see you later.
They did. And it legit worked.
They had to earn our trust at the end of that, by the end of Street Fighter 5.
They took my trust and they ran away with it. Like
we want to get.
They made a good game.
It's wild.
They took Street Fighter 5 out of like what was not a great spot.
Yeah,
it's just funny. I don't think I've ever seen another like situation where people are like, I want to give you money. Let me give you money. Every other community is like, you guys are ripping us off. I hate you. But Street Fighter 6 is like, please, man, just like let me give you $10.
This only happened once before in my memory, and a lot of people chose to forget it happened. It was Tekken 7. The customization items in Tekken 7, and you pretty much hit the cap of what is offered, and they just never offered anything more. People were literally screaming, we would give you money for more customization items. Like, what the hell? Like, what is going? And now they're doing it, and everyone's big mad. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation,
A lot of situations seem like that in fighting games nowadays.
People want to go back to Street Fighter 5 costumes, dude, and that was the game of like 14 Chun-Li costumes. Like everyone memed on it for that reason.
But they're good costumes. Like a lot of them are awesome.
And I hate to say it, like if you're maining Dalsum, you know what you're getting into. You're not playing the character who's gonna have a maid outfit and like 9 other things. Okay,
yeah.
like you
should though.
You went on this life path knowing what you were choosing.
Like maybe we're grossly overestimating it, but in my head, I would like to think Capcom, if you just make casual Mai costume purchasable, you can fund a new Resident Evil.
Let every character have that. Let Ken wear that, and we don't even need Monster Hunter anymore. That will carry Capcom.
Leighton, you are always working at 120%, success rate. What do you have coming up on your channel lately?
So I just released a video on Asuka 120%, which I believe is the foundation of the anime fighter. It starts
Burning Fest.
This was a video that was a long time in the coming, just because just to record it, I had to install Windows 98 in a virtual environment. I had to use a FM Towns emulator, a Sharp 68000 emulator. I had like 10 emulators open, but hopefully by the end of this video, you can say, oh, hey, Air Tekken came from this random game from 30 years ago.
I do remember the first time I ever played it, and it's like, that game sort of grabbed me. It was like the early 2000s off of like a PlayStation or Saturn bootleg or some shit, and it was just like, whoa, dude, you press buttons in this game, dude. Holy crap. And like you could see it. It's right up there alongside like Guilty Gear 1 in that same space, same time, where they were getting some pretty crazy ideas.
When I first saw the title of that, like when I was going through like old fighting game lists and ROMs and stuff, I would just see that name and I'll be like, that's such a cool name. What is this game? So thankfully, thanks to GuileWinQuote's channel, a lot more people are learning about it. Where can they find that video on the internet, sir?
GuileWinQuote on YouTube, GuileWinQuote on Twitter. GuileWinQuote, Blue Sky. GuileWinQuote, if you Google it,
you'll find it. Cool. All right, so hopefully next week or in 2 weeks' time, we'll have Justin back on and he can tell us all about his memories of Jenny and his dreams of Jenny floating through his mind. Doing
two
her
good
counter
reasons.
taunt.